And so my mom was like all alone, and one day like this lady knocked at her door, and she said like she was her neighbor and that she like wanted to get to know her and like make her feel welcome. And so since my grandma didn't really have like anyone else around, like she would just welcome this lady, and then like they just kind of formed a friendship. She was like an older lady, but my grandma would always invite her in, and like they would just talk and stuff. And so she thought that she was like making a friend, or just at least having someone that she could, have company with. And then one day, the lady asked her like just a question. It was like, do you think that your husband like loves you enough?
The Late Night Legends podcast is meant for a mature audience. Topics covered may be violent or sexual in nature and are not suitable for sensitive listeners. Please be aware of your surroundings. For specific trigger warnings, please see the episode's show notes. Testimony shared by guests of this show are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Late Night Legends hosts or staff. This podcast and any linked materials should not be considered medical or professional advice, nor is the information a substitute for the expertise or treatment from a professional. Listener discretion is advised.
Watch out. He met her on a Friday night. Hips like fire, eyes like fade. Said her name was Luna. He never thought to hesitate. He played his game smooth with life.
All right, guys, welcome back to Late Night Legends. Glad to have you all back. Hope you're enjoying your week since it just started, and it's a great way to start it is with us. So tonight, Maria is going to be talking about Brujas. So let's jump in.
Okay. Sorry. So, Brujas, it means witch or witches. And I know that there's plenty of different types around the world, but in Latin America, there's quite a few that it's just very different in a way than what I've heard of like witchcraft being here in the States, at least in modern times. So I just wanted to speak about like some of the different types that I've heard throughout my life. So, in Latin America, all the varying categories, it varies from like, I guess you could say tame to like kind of severe, creepy. And some of the like more tamer ones, more like regular type would be what people call sanadoras or curanderas. And these are basically like healers or, what people would say like white witches. And this is basically just people kind of like, not like Reiki, but it's kind of similar in that they basically use like nature and herbs and just magic to heal people and to like help them. So some of this would be used to like remove curses and stuff from what other witches might have done onto a person. So basically they just focus on illness, the mind, the body. But then when it comes to like healing the curses and everything, there's like sort of rituals that they do. And some of these, one of the common ones is with an egg. And this is mostly to...
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I know the egg.
To remove like kind of negative energies, but like also anything other that might have been absorbed or clinged on to the person. So I don't know exactly the ritual because wherever you look through it, there's like different ways that people say that they would do it. But basically the idea is that there's an egg that the curandera like or curandero would move around your entire body without touching your skin. And the idea is that it will absorb any of the negative energy or whatever it is that is in you or ailing you, for that matter. And then they just like crack the egg into a like clear container, and then they see what it's in the egg. And sometimes it'll be like either black stuff or just it'll be things that are typically not in a regular egg, and they just like read it and see if just to see whatever it was.
I have a personal
Really?
experience with that. If you want me
Yeah.
to tell it, 100%. I had a really. I don't want. I guess I don't want to say anything bad, but I had an ex-girlfriend who was paying money for a psychic who was not a witch, but a psychic, which is
Mhm.
different, right? Like it's a different thing. And I remember, she would come back from seeing the psychic, and she would tell me about what's going on. And she like this one day she came home crying. I'm like, "What's up?" And she's like, "Oh, the psychic." And like she was like so embarrassed that she was seeing a psychic that she wouldn't even tell me the psychic's name. I never knew. And by the way, I think the psychic she was seeing was of European descent. I don't believe. Yeah, definitely European descent, and definitely not a Latin American person. So, anyway, the one day the psychic, decided to do the egg. I don't know exactly what happened, but I do remember it was explained to me something like that, where they do the whole thingy thing. And I guess the first egg was normal. So then the psychic's like, "Oh, wait, let me try a different egg." And then the second one was filled with black. And then my ex-girlfriend was like, "Oh my God, what is this?" And then it was about our relationship. And it was because I was telling her not to see the psychic. And she had told the psychic, "Oh, well, my boyfriend doesn't want me to see you anymore." So then she's like, "Let's just check the vibes."
She didn't want to lose the
let's
money.
see how your relationship will go. So she cracked the egg, and I think she pulled an incorrect egg from wherever she's getting the egg. And then she's like, "Oh wait, no, let's get this other egg." And then she got the other egg.
Yeah.
So it's can verify is real, or at least is practiced.
Yeah, but with this, like sometimes, yeah, I don't know how they would hoax it, but some of them, like some of the stories, some of them are just really weird, like how they would get some of this stuff like within the egg. But I've also heard that like you shouldn't crack it, at least if you're not like with a professional that does this and practices this types of stuff. They say to like if you do it yourself, if like people are just like wanting to do it, because some people, I think primarily in Mexico and like maybe some other Central American countries, they do this also kind of like a home remedy. Like if you're feeling depressed or if you have like any illness, this is like a home remedy, like just taking a tea or something. And they really recommend to like not crack it, because then you're not disposing of it properly and it could release whatever negative energy that was held within that egg and stick it on someone else or just make the situation worse.
Fun fact, Stormfrog, who's also a friend of the show, his grandmother did the egg thing once, and we talked about it. So anybody who's listening that's interested in that, go back 2 years ago, where we had Stormfrog and his sister Paige Senpai on, and they talk about this egg thing too, now that I think about it.
Yeah, so I'm not saying for anyone to do this, but one of the ways that I've seen or heard of people disposing of it is that once it's cracked into that clear container and they read it and see it, then it's thrown either like in the toilet or something, and then you have to like sprinkle like salt with it, and also in that clear container you also have to sprinkle salt in it. But again, I don't know if that's like the end all be all of like how you're supposed to get rid of it. People may say it varies, but that's just one of the ways that I read up on. So yeah, this is again to like get rid of like negative energies, and this is also used a lot because people believe in mal de ojo, or like if people give you like the evil eye. So yeah, it's basically like if someone's envious of you, and then you start feeling like bad or like getting bad luck or losing like things that have meaning for you, then people say like, oh, someone gave you like the evil eye, so you should go with a curandera or something. So that's basically kind of like the culture of like how it's taken care of, and like it's normal to like go to these people and just, you know, like how you would go to a doctor for something, you go to them for this types of stuff. But yeah, that's when it comes to like, okay, why do you need to like go visit these people and get rid of like these curses or like things that are causing havoc in your life? And that's when the like a little bit darker of the brujas come in. And these can be people that a lot of them like, you know, you pay them money to like cast curses or just like do something to someone that you don't like. Or it could be that this one specific bruja just doesn't like you and she has like a personal vendetta towards you or wants something from you, and then like they do something towards you. And a lot of people have said that like the way that they figure out that something like this has happened to them, it's not just because of like the symptoms and everything, but they find like little pouches or like they're given a gift. So for example, like a necklace or a bracelet or even like a stuffed bear or a watch or just anything that you can think of, like someone gives you something and then things start happening in your life. And then they say that like sometimes like in these gifts, they like stuff something into them, and it can be like a little packet with like hair or nails and like a bunch of like other stuff. And it's like, okay, what the heck is this? And like, even if you don't believe in it, it's like, that's like, why are they doing this to me?
So weird.
You know? So yeah, and like it just always ties back to like, okay, after I received this gift, then like this stuff started happening to me. So that's kind of how like it ties in, like people just with the culture, they immediately say like, oh, it must have been like a bruja, like trying to do something. And other times it's not even gifts. A lot of people say that like they ate something, like they won't know for sure, but they'll like think back after like being super ill, like to the point of like death almost, like they're in the hospital like trying to get cured, and like the doctors can't find anything that's like actually physically wrong with them, but they're just not getting any better. And then they realize like, oh, I accepted like this food from this person, or like I would always eat this or like drink this with them. And then, yeah, in a way, it's like kind of like true crime, like someone like putting something in your food, poisoning them. But a lot of the times, like what people say is that they find out that they do like dirt from a graveyard or something and like mix it in with the food and just stuff like that. And it just, to these people, like these testimonies, like it actually like causes like physical ailments or just, again, like makes them have like bad luck, trail them all over the place. So yeah, it's very interesting to like know that like these people experience these things and then like they realize something, and it just kind of ties to what we in our culture believe to be like witchcraft, in a way. So yeah. And then any thoughts on that so far?
I feel like you haven't really talked as dark as it can get or as hardcore as it can get. I know factually with them, for listeners, viewers, I am half Mexican. And so I have a lot of family in Mexico. My dad is actually in Mexico right now. Within the realm of believers within, Latin America, Mexico, any of the other countries, Belize, Ecuador, Panama, everywhere, even into South America, some of the witches, like, they will go after you and your family. Like, they will put a generational curse on you. I've met more than one person, and these people do not know each other, and they're from different times and parts of my life. Well, they will straight up believe that their family has been generationally cursed by a witch, and it's affected like their parents and themselves, and they get really worried that it would be affecting their kids too. And it can get real nasty. It's not a fun. A lot of our witches in pop culture in America are very fun and spooky and awesome and whatever, and down there they don't fuck around. It's kind of like voodoo. Like, voodoo is kind of a joke too, or the way that voodoo is portrayed in media, it's kind of funny, but like, it is not a funny thing. If you're Charlie's, you know what I'm talking about, right? It is not a funny thing. It is a scary thing, and a lot of people say like, for example, like voodoo is very close to actual like demonic black magic. Like, that's pretty close, and I think this would be too, depending on what you're talking about specifically. So it's like a
we'll
very
get a
broad
little
thing.
bit more into that. But like, yeah, during my research, I was debating, because this could be a different topic in itself too. It's like the different types of religions of like hoodoo, santeria, palomayombe even. There's just like so many that like it can get very dark. So I don't know how like censorship would be with YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, Tim, you ever hear of any of those? Santeria? Sublime sang about it.
I don't practice Santeria. I ain't got no crystal ball.
I'm glad you
That's what
picked
I've
up on that.
But I like the egg story. I thought that was excellent.
Oh,
Oh, it's you're such a crack up.
Yeah. I'm just a old dad, but dad jokes are pathetic.
These are the
Oh
yolks,
my
folks.
yeah. So with like the ingesting stuff, when people go to the curanderas, they like the rituals that they perform on them is might be a little bit different, but basically these people would like expel whatever they had eaten, and it comes out as like a black substance or something, or just like things that like a person wouldn't have like gone and eaten themselves. Like it's just something that's not food. Like they say that they ate like a
Yeah.
certain type of food, and then what they're throwing up is like non-edible things. I've heard like one story, like even like it had to do with like frogs. Like frogs were coming out. So
Like I heard
Mm.
snakes. Like it can be like
Yeah.
reptile type things.
so yeah. And then
It's terrible. Is it just like, are they actually like, are they pulling it out? Like, I imagine it being like alive and they're like still trying to get it out of them.
it depends.
no,
Yeah.
they're supposed to be alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just like other
Yeah.
like not like objects. It can be like objects and stuff, or just like the actual like dirt that you're like throwing up. Like you didn't even realize you had like ingested dirt. And yeah.
And yeah, and I've heard of it like I'm so sorry to kind of derail you here, but since I've heard of some of this stuff, I've heard that like part of the process of like you need help, they'll like give you a tea, like an herbal remedy tea to help you along the way. But some of the witchcraft involves giving you a little bit of like peyote and stuff in there, a little bit of hallucinogen, and then you're not really sure what you have ingested. You know, you're kind of coming in and out of things, and you're seeing visions, and that's kind of the part of the appeal of the whole
Yeah.
thing, right? Like you have a journey that you do
Yeah.
while you're doing this.
And then there's also kind of derailing myself too, but there's a lot of, I guess, like you could say flea markets, primarily in Mexico. They're like humongous markets, and there's like little stores in there that like it'll look like a regular store, but then if you know to ask, like you can, like some of those people are witches or just witches. I was gonna say like brujos or brujas.
Witchers,
Yeah.
healers, they don't
Yeah.
like identify.
They'll just
as
say
the word. They'll
curanderos,
say,
yeah.
"Oh, I'm a healer."
Or shamans.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can like pay them for like these type like potions, or just pay them to work, like do work on someone, and then that person that got worked on like is like, oh, I need help, I need to get rid of this, and they might end up going to the same person, and as long as they pay them, they'll help them out and like reverse whatever they did. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like it's just transaction on ruining people's lives.
So is
It
this
is-
supposed
it
to be
is
a
a business.
positive thing or a
Both.
negative thing?
Sometimes it's positive. Yeah. They're not. It's shades of gray, man. Like you can go to these markets and you want to be cleansed, and
Mhm.
they'll smack you around with some eucalyptus that's on fire a little bit, that's smoking. You know,
Yeah,
I've
all
heard of
those
that.
candles.
We do stuff.
I don't know
here
if like
too
any
with-
of you have seen like those candles with like all the saints and stuff. That stuff.
I've got one with death.
Oh yeah,
right behind me if
that
you want me
like
to
La
grab it. I
Santa
light it.
Muerte. That's more into like religion type stuff. But La Santa Muerte, that's like
Yeah,
a
right here.
deity
Santa
that
Muerte.
they pray to and stuff, and like ask for favors to like help them with whatever works they are doing.
Has it worked for you, Frank?
I don't know how's the podcast doing.
Patron saint of the
Mm.
late night legends, right there.
So yeah, there's like how Frank said that people say that they're like generationally cursed, or that like a witch like specifically targets them. And in my family, like there is a little story like with my grandma, like she thinks that she was like targeted by a witch. Just a little story that I'll say about it. So she was recently married with my grandpa, and I believe she was like in her early 20s, and so she wasn't working yet. And my grandpa was a professor, so he would have to like go to his work and come back to the house, so she would be by herself. And they lived like in this little village area. So he would have to like travel a good ways away. Like he would be gone for like from the morning until like after after dark. And so my mom was like all alone, and one day like this lady knocked at her door, and she said like she was her neighbor and that she like wanted to get to know her and like make her feel welcome. And so since my grandma didn't really have like anyone else around, like she would just welcome this lady, and then like they just kind of formed a friendship. She was like an older lady, but my grandma would always invite her in, and like they would just talk and stuff. And so she thought that she was like making a friend, or just at least having someone that she could, you know, have company with. And then one day, the lady asked her like just a question. It was like, do you think that your husband like loves you enough? And then my grandma was like,
Oh my God.
I mean, yeah, like she just didn't really think much of it. And then another day, the lady was like, I have some books and stuff that like can help you make sure that he sticks with you. And then my grandma just like didn't really vibe with that. So she just kind of stopped talking to her. Like even like my grandma didn't really believe in all that stuff, but like just even those like prodding questions, she just didn't really like that. So I guess that kind of like upset the lady. But either way, my grandma told my grandpa about what was going on. He said to just ignore her, don't let her in the house anymore. And then one day the lady came knocking again, and she asked for a favor if she could borrow my grandma's wedding veil because her granddaughter was getting married. And my grandma was like, okay, well, I feel bad. Like this lady, like they probably can't really afford it. And so she gave her wedding veil. Big mistake. So, cause yeah, she probably used it for something. But after that, they started hearing things like around the house. They would hear like footsteps on the roof or just things outside of the house. And that's when my grandpa started like picking up on it. Like, okay, maybe there is something going on with this lady. Like just not even thinking of anything supernatural, just like this lady just kind of like stalking them or annoying them. And then one day, the way that their kitchen was set up, they had the kitchen had French doors. So it was like two doors together.
Ooh,
And it would have a lock.
favorite.
So that was kind of like the traditional kitchens in Colombia, I would think, like in the village areas, and they would lock it. So every night the kitchen would be locked. And they were upstairs sleeping, and my grandpa always kept a machete under his bed. So as soon as like they started hearing like the footsteps around the roof, and they started hearing like cackling within the house, and they were hearing that like simultaneously, that's when he like grabbed a machete and like they started going down the stairs. And when they started like getting out of the bed and to go downstairs, they started hearing like plates and just everything like being thrown as the cackling continued. And it sounded like people were just like in the house, like making a mess of everything downstairs. And once they reached the downstairs, like everything was just quiet. And then they went to the kitchen and it was still locked, and they unlocked it and like everything was in its place. So I don't know. They swear that like they hear that, and like even to this day, like they're 80 something, they still say the same story. They're like they know for sure that they heard that.
And they don't like make any other like wild claims. They're not like talking about something new that happened every week. They're otherwise kind of down to earth with things.
Yeah.
Would you say?
I mean, my
Okay.
grandma experienced a lot of things in her childhood, but like this was like the only like witch type story that she and my grandpa experienced. So after that, they decided to move, and they moved to a different city. They didn't tell anyone in that village, and the lady came knocking at the door. And then I think like 3 years, in the span of like 3 years, they moved to like two other places, and that lady kept coming and finding them. So I don't know how she found them, like, but yeah, she just kept finding them. And then my grandma, I like part of that, she was pregnant with my aunt. And after she had her, they were like, okay, this lady keeps coming. We got to baptize Diana. That's like my aunt's name. And so after they baptized my aunt, like that lady, they never saw her again. So I don't know if that's correlated or what, but it does kind of tie into like the next type of bruja that I've read about. And it's just kind of weird how like some brujas, like they're said to specifically target like women or like pregnant women and their children or babies. And in Mexico, there's a name for this, and they call them the Tlahuelpuchis. And they come from Tlaxcala, Mexico, primarily, I think. And these are a little bit more like to the stuff of legend and myth, because they tie a little bit more into like what you would think of vampire, kind of. So they say that like these types of witches, they like target babies and mothers for their blood, or sometimes like for their energy, to like drain their energy or their blood. So for these ones, they say to like for women, they always recommend for like to keep sharp scissors on them or like around them, or iron, because it's supposed to like repel these witches. And I've heard of like having like just like a tiny type of like scissor, just like as the necklace or something. But there's this story of a lady that I heard, and a lot of this is like word of mouth. But basically, she was working. I think she was a teacher or something, and she had to start working at a remote location until she could like build up her reputation to like go out into the city, and be a teacher there. And so during that time, she was pregnant. And a lady like noticed that she was pregnant, and she was like, oh, like she was like really interested in like her pregnancy. And she didn't really think much of it because, like, you know, old ladies, they're all about like, oh, baby, so cute. But people around her would tell her to like just be careful, because like that lady had a reputation, but they wouldn't tell her what. And then after she had the baby one day, she said that she felt like an overwhelming sense of like needing to fall asleep, even though she wasn't tired before, and she still needed to like to put her baby to sleep, and she had like other things that she needed to do. But a lot of the people that experience this stuff with like this specific type of bruja, they say that like they're overcome with like a need to sleep. Like they're so exhausted, they can't do anything else but like just go to bed. And yes, this could be like attributed to like, oh, she's a mom, she's like super tired and everything. But she said that like it felt very different from just regular exhaustion. And when she was like asleep or like laying down, it felt like it was also like a paralysis. So it was like needing to sleep, and then the sleep paralysis would kind of come on. And she heard her baby starting to cry, and her baby was like next to her. And she was like, okay, I need to like wake up and like get her. But she wasn't able to, like, no matter how much she tried, she was asleep. And she couldn't wake up, and she felt like the sleep paralysis, but she knew that she was hearing her baby.
Wow.
And while this was happening, she felt as something like got on the bed, and it started like making its way towards her and towards the baby. And she remembered like this one of her friends had told her about a prayer that she should say for herself and for the baby, but she couldn't remember it. She could only remember like the first part. So she just kept repeating that first part, and then that helped her like get up. And so as soon as she sat up, she felt as like whatever it was like got out of the bed. And she had a window in her room, and she remembered that she had it closed. But when she like looked towards the window, it was open, and she saw a black mass just like jump out of the window. Yeah.
Wow.
So the babe.
Tim, you're missing the best part.
Sorry, my
No.
power flickered.
Uh-oh.
No.
So yeah, basically Tim, the whatever was like on her bed, as soon as she got up after like she had to pray, but she could only repeat the first part of the prayer because she couldn't remember it. She was able to wake up, get up, and she felt whatever was on her bed move out. And then she saw a black mass jump out of the window that was closed before, but it was now open. But the baby was fine. But she said that like the cry was like a mom can tell the difference of like a baby's cry, and this cry like felt like the baby was like being hurt, like something was hurting her.
Oh no.
And so she went to close the window and she said that she heard like the sound of a turkey, like the bird. And there weren't any turkeys around in that area. There were farms and stuff, but like none of them had any turkeys. And then she said that it turned into like the sound of a laugh of a little girl, and then it turned into the laugh of like an older lady. And so she closed it. She just paid no mind to it. And then the next morning she went to her friend and like told her what happened. And then like that's when they explained to her that like, oh, it might have been this lady. They say that she's a bruja. And they say that like she's a Tawilpuchi. And some of these types of brujas, like the Tawilpuchis, they are also known to be kind of like shapeshifters. In that they can either turn into like balls of flame or balls of fire. So when people say that like they see like a ball of flame or something like in the sky or around in their city, they're like, oh, I saw a witch, I saw a bruja. And this is so that they are able to like get into the houses and like escape much easier. And a lot of the stories do say that like the suspected brujas and stuff, once they have like fed or like drained energies and stuff, like they look healthier, they look younger than what they did before. So believe of that what you will, but there's just so many different encounters and stories of like people saying the same thing. It's kind of just, there's got to be a truth in there somewhere. And so the other shape-shifting stuff is like animals. And a lot of I think in Mexico, I don't know about other countries, but in Mexico primarily, I've heard that like they think owls, like a lot of owls might be brujas. Don't hurt animals. But
that's true. And then bats also. There's like a lot of bats, and bats are always witches or demons.
Yeah. So, and then turkeys as well. Like a lot of the stories say like, oh, it was a turkey and like it must have been a bruja, because of like how it was acting, what it was doing.
Turkeys are jerks anyway. Like could be just turkeys being turkeys, to be honest.
Yeah. And so this kind of goes into a little bit of a darker magic or darker spiritual stuff. When it gets more into like the realm of like shape-shifting. And in Mexico, there's a name for this, and they call them nahuales. And this comes from Mesoamerican time and like the Aztecs, Mayans, Toltec traditions and everything. And these were traditionally individuals that can connect to like their animal counterpart. And these were primarily like shamans or people that like had that spiritual gift that was like inherited generationally. And so the use of these practices, they weren't considered inherently evil. It was more used for like curanderos, like healing, guidance, or protection of their tribe and their village. But as you can imagine, like having this ability, depending on the type of person, it can be used for negative reasons and evil purposes. So it's been said that there's like 3 levels or 3 types. And the first is shamans with the knowledge and spiritual energy that can connect to the psyche of an animal. So for example, like there's a falcon or an eagle flying in the sky, and then the shaman below is like vibrating at a frequency or just having that like meditation to connect to that animal, and so that they can feel, hear, and see whatever that animal is experiencing. So that's the first type. The second type is that plus being able to control the animal. So making the animal like attack someone for you or bring you something from like somewhere that you can't reach, or like, you know, if they have to like go out to like a mountain somewhere and like get you something, or just anything, or like guarding your territory, your area. And this is still kind of within the like protection and guidance and like healing area of these practices. But then the third is when it comes to the actual shape shifting into the animal. And I don't want to get this wrong, but basically a lot of the people, like this was in the ages of like Mesoamerica and stuff, but to this day, like they say like it's still practiced in a lot of the tribes or just within like communities of people. And all these shamans, they always recommend the ones that are practicing like the first and 2 levels to not associate or like do not speak with the ones doing the third, just because of how dangerous it can be. These people, they're not like 2 of the shamans and 2 people around them, like they're not considered fully human anymore. They think that like there's just something like it's no longer human about them with the way that like they act and the things that they can do. So a lot of these with brujas, people say like, oh, it's just like a little owl or a turkey or something. But when it comes to nahuales, with the shape-shifting stuff, they say that they can be either like coyotes, wolves, even bulls, like much bigger animals. And you always hear like stories of people saying that like, oh, that dog, like it was just staring at me in a certain way. And like, it looks like this animal could like just talk to me, but it's choosing not to. Or even like, I don't know, like they would just like look human, but they don't, or they look like an animal, but you can clearly tell that they're not. And this probably feels very similar to what in America is called as a skinwalker. And though they do have a lot of like similarities, they're not exactly the same type thing, very different practices of how they come to that shape-shifting area. But again, the nahuales of like the third type, like the shape-shifting, they are very dangerous. Like they are known to like unalive people, animals, and people say that like brujas, because I'm not saying that like brujas and nahuales are the same, but brujas may use those practices from the nahuales into like their own practices, and that's how like they may that's how people explain that like they are also learning how to like shapeshift and like do all this stuff. So again, this is very like more into like myth and legend, but who knows if it is true or not, how true it can be with like what they're doing. But yeah. And with the skinwalkers, that is another topic that is very interesting.
It's a huge
So I don't want to
topic.
get too much into it. But just they are still like very different. But I know one of the differences is that with nahuales, like you can say the word nahual or whatever about them, they're not gonna come for you. With like skinwalkers, it's said to like not say their name, or like at least not the like Navajo word for a skinwalker, because then like it attracts them to you.
You got to be careful about like your interaction with them too, because you can invite them in or things happen.
I was going to say that was like one of my first episodes. We said, don't say that. And now she said it 3 times. So
I'm not
sorry.
saying the Navajo
Wait.
version, and I know it, but I won't.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Because that's the one that you're not supposed to say for sure. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I feel
Just
like you
burn some
you barely
tobacco.
scratch
I
the
can say.
surface. Tobacco.
I can't speak. But yeah, this is like, these are all very big topics that's like, it would take hours and hours to cover.
It's so one of the things that I really have enjoyed in my personal journey of like personally looking into stuff. Obviously, y'all know that I love conspiracy stuff. There's a lot that I'm reading about CERN lately that marries. A lot of people feel like CERN is actually fucking around with witchcraft and black magic right now. And when you see these topics marry each other, like conspiracies marry black magic, things get out of control and you get down some rabbit holes. But I actually quite organically have done a lot of reading. There's so many things that witches supposedly do all over the world. But I mean, we're talking things like weather control, teleportation, forcible soul removal or soul swapping. There's witches that they'll do like a seance type of thing. And if you want to talk with like someone who's passed away, they'll swap that person's soul that's already passed with somebody who's sitting at your seance, and then you're going to talk through that person. So like that's a thing. Crop failure, infertility of animals and people, possession, hypnosis, and mind control, which you kind of mentioned. We mentioned like there's just so much.
Yeah, there's a lot of like stories that I've heard that like I won't say all of like what happened because it's not my story to tell entirely, but like there's been people that like their family members have passed away, and like all of the like reasons like tie back to like possible witchcraft, and like they have like tried to look for like reasonings other than that, and they just can't come to like any other conclusion. So yeah, it can get pretty dark, and yeah,
it gets pretty dark. Just like ruining crops, and these are old school things. These are not necessarily newer things, but like there's witches out there that apparently can cause somebody to have a mental breakdown or give somebody dementia or just mess somebody up permanently, start fires, start floods, like anything you can think of good and there's some good stuff too, right? Like, so like for like the infertility thing, I don't know why I was going to say infertility, but for infertility, they can also help you become fertile. I think one of the things to watch out for that, and at least in my reading, is like a lot of people don't really acknowledge how some witches are kind of good or working for good. And I think sometimes it kind of comes with, it's almost like making a deal with the devil, so to speak, where it's like, yes, they're going to do something for you, but what do they want in return? And you might be signing up for like a lifetime of payments or a lifetime of interactions or whatever it might be. And I think that like this translates into this show too, right? So one of my most not favorite things about the paranormal community is people who try to make a profit off of it for really bad reasons. Like it's like I could do an episode on just how I feel about that, but realistically, there's a lot of people out there that are looking to take advantage of other people, witches or not. They'll convince you that they might be witches or they'll convince somebody that they are. And then it's almost like a placebo effect, right? So like clearly the one that I was talking about earlier with my ex-girlfriend, that's a placebo. Like that person was just a psychic, but then was introducing elements of witchcraft into her scam. And so like those are like the worst types of people. But I would love to kind of do a follow-up topic or topics and just discuss some of these crazy like elemental powers and what these people are rumored to have done. And it's such a interesting rabbit hole to go down. And there's like witches around the world are very, very different, and different types of black magic and witchcraft. This has been so great. What you think, Tim? What are you thinking over there?
Yeah, I mean, it's creepy to me. It's real creepy. I had to look up the Navajo word for skinwalker. And
why would you do that?
I'm curious.
It's okay. It'll be loose in Arizona, guys. Don't worry about it. None of us are there.
This has made me curious, right? So I just want to investigate more. It's
I'm close to the.
This reminds me of the time
native area of it.
Are you? I thought Skinwalker Ranch was in Texas. Is it not?
Oh, that's different. That's a different.
Well, Skinwalkers are
thing
everywhere
too, but
like, isn't Skinwalker Ranch? Isn't that
yeah? It's like a bunch of like other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought that was a Star Wars thing.
It's Skywalker Ranch.
Oh yeah.
That's just Jar Jar Binks.
My bad.
No, you're good. Maria, did you have anything else on it? Or is that
a little bit, I guess. But yeah, I like to say like, yeah, I think primarily the Navajo, they're in like the Midwest. So I won't say specifically.
My family is some of my ancestors, not my immediate family, but some of my ancestors through my dad's side are part Iroquois. So that's really cool. And so he's got a lot of Native American or Native North American blood in him, I should say. And it's he's done a peyote thing. My dad actually, as a child, would go to see a shaman my brother and I, when we went to Mexico, we were assigned totems, and my dad was assigned a totem when he was a little kid. And then you're supposed to go twice in life, and then they reassign one for you. But just like you said, it can be used against you too. So like, you know, because animals are not perfect creatures, and they come with, I mean, they're supposed to be your guides. So you know, I think that those things could be like spoofed and then maybe misguide you. Or I don't know. There's such a big world of deception out there.
Much respect to the natives, though. Like, yeah. But yeah, Tim, why did you look it up?
Don't look at it.
I mean, I couldn't say it if I tried, honestly.
But yeah, I think like just one last thing. Since you were talking a little bit more about like the different types of things that witchcraft can do.
Yeah.
One of them, like, it may be like just corny or whatever, but amarres, it's like the like love spell or something, but these can be like one of the like worst ones and like the most deadly, because it's not like love, obviously. It makes like that person obsessed, to the point that like they'll stop eating, they'll become hermits. And a lot of like the stories, like these people, they just kind of like become a shell of a person, and even after like it's undone,
hygiene goes out the window. No more hygiene.
So yeah, it's just crazy how like anything and everything that like you can think of, like they'll do, and a lot of it's because you know they're just being paid for it.
It's just wild. I want to give Charlie a chance to talk too, because I feel like Charlie has a lot to say about it. I went down a rabbit hole once where I was reading about like what some purported witches will do to gain their power, and it's like drowning kids and kidnapping kids and doing that.
Yeah, I don't know if we could like say that stuff, but yeah, a lot of it is like.
Well, I maybe cut it out, but maybe we'll talk later on.
For
like,
the live,
like,
a lot of like child sacrifice.
All kinds. The darkest shit that you could possibly imagine is what some people believe will give these people strength and power. And it's even outside of the aspect of witches, there's people that are like completely normal ass people that try to do stuff like that just to be ritualistic, and there's rabbit holes that I don't even have to mention that you guys know about.
So you hear all the negative things that it does to other people, or that they choose to try to do to other people. So what do they benefit from doing this? Just causing chaos?
I mean, there's a little bit of a conversation we could have as soon as we're not live anymore that I could kind of tell you about. And I think Charlie probably knows about some of the concepts that I'd probably mentioned to you that you might know as well. I don't know.
Like, yeah.
Charlie, do you want to chime in at all? I feel like you've been kind of quiet, but.
Well, I mean, it's kind of that in the more Western or European descendant folklore. It's kind of that idea of selling your soul, for power or for gain or whatever it is, and it's more of a literal interpretation of that. Like, what does that selling your soul or discarding your soul, I guess, what does that actually entail? It's not just a sign in blood. It's literally sign in blood, like so not your blood.
For me, like I would say like the more like tame ones, they're doing this to like some help people, others it's just like their job kind of. But then with like what Charlie's saying, that like if they're selling their soul, then like they have to like upkeep themselves, and like this is when like it comes to like the ones that have to like live off of like the blood of babies or something, or like they have to like drain the energy of people, or like they just have to keep like tearing away at their humanity in order to like continue what they're doing.
I have read specifically on souls, not about witches, but on souls. There are people out there that believe that the big ultimate reptilian, alien, fucking craziest conspiracy bullshit you could ever imagine, sort of the end game is soul harvesting. And I was thinking about even doing a show about how there are a lot of people. There are people that have written books on the concept of, have you guys ever heard of like when you pass away, you see that light, and like, do you go towards the light? And most people choose to go towards the light. And so there are a lot of people out there that will say and believe, do not go towards the light, because it leads to reincarnation, and you get whatever luck of the draw in your next life. It leads to death, so they could reharvest a new soul from you. Whereas if you choose to not go towards the light, you kind of keep your soul and you don't go through this cycle again and again of being reborn. So it's a wild, crazy thing, but it's cool to read about. If you ever wanted to know, like, the end goal of the soul stuff is like soul harvesting. That's why I mentioned earlier the forcible soul removal, because like there's people that believe in that shit. I don't know. It's crazy. So nuts. So yeah. It's been a wild ride. Now I want to go back and watch some of my favorite movies about witchcraft stuff.
Yeah, so it's not all just rocks and herbs. Yeah.
There's like possession stuff. There's like generational curse stuff is the craziest stuff. There's kidnapping stuff, and even some of that stuff leads into like vampire folklore too, which are like originated from sort of some concepts of like, I think some of the early vampires that I had read about in my part of the world with my ancestry. So I'm part Slovenian, and there's like within that area of the world, there's like a lot of stories of women who would steal children. And I think realistically, those women were probably stealing children for like trafficking or slavery purposes. But I think some of the legends that came out of that were like, oh, well, they're witches or they're vampires. And like, you know, they steal children because they can't have children of their own. And, you know, you get down a path of like bad mouthing gypsies and people who are like traveling nomads type of people. And it's all one big intertwined tapestry of spooky craziness.
Many topics in one.
Fall down.
So if anyone wants to hear more about any of the topics mentioned, just let us know.
All right. You guys want to move into final thoughts?
Go for it.
I'll be last. Tim, you want to go first?
Sure, I'll start. I mean, this is very interesting to me. I, heard about witches before, think about witches a little bit, but not like as much as I think about, other things that I think about from like a supernatural and paranormal standpoint. I guess I'm more into some other things. So hearing more about witches kind of piques my interest a little more. I want to kind of do a little more investigating and learn more about it after hearing the stuff that you chatted about. It sounds like there's a lot, and it's funny because it sounds like there's a lot of culture in witches, or the Brujas at least, right? And makes me want to learn more about that and understand, why that is.
Tim, you're frozen on my screen with a big smile on your face. You're just like,
I see it, man. Yeah, my Wi-Fi keeps popping in and out tonight, so I don't know what the deal is, but
I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Now I just look like Dr. Seuss or something. Some weird, some shit got me.
I told you. We told you shouldn't have not looked that up.
Don't look it up.
Guess you were right.
Charlie, what you got for final thought tonight?
Well, so I mean, I was aware of maybe some of this, and I don't know. My mom was attacked by an owl, so make of that what you will. While she was out for a jog, so she has a permanent hatred of owls now. So
sorry, Charlie.
If anybody's looking for like more of a lighthearted or a little bit nice, I don't know, a little bit more friendly interpretation or something along these lines, hey, check out the movie Like Water for Chocolate. Great movie. And there's like a scene where she's making the cookies for the wedding, and she's crying into the cookie dough, and everybody at the wedding starts crying as they're eating the cookies. So it follows a lot of the same kind of things, but it's a little more romantic and nice, and not murder and kidnapping and things. So
I mean, there's always been like weather related stuff. It's like sometimes they say if you're like a powerful witch or whatever, and you're like getting emotional, whether that's angry or like sad, it can start raining or snowing because you're sad. That's a real thing. Anyway, go ahead, Maria. You can go next. I'll go last.
I'll just say some advice of like, just don't accept any gifts or food from anyone that you may suspect is envious of you. Keep your windows locked. He's back.
Tim, it's back, but you're still frozen with the smile on my
I see
screen.
that. This is weird. I reset my camera, everything, and
It's because
now
It was that
immediately
Google
looked
to
up
the
that
back
word,
screen.
man. It's that
Yeah,
Google
They're gonna
chat.
erase me.
Yeah, I don't want to say the S word, and I'm never looking that up. I mean, it feels
I don't even know it
like
starts with an S. I don't want to know about it.
no. I mean the
one I said.
the Americanized, the English anglicized name. I'm not
Gotcha.
gonna say that either.
I just gotta.
Oh,
It says
no.
you stopped recording, so
Oh.
that's cool. That's all right. Well, I'll just put you as the smile picture in your area in post. It'll be great. I'll close it up, guys. But Maria, sincerely, thank you for this topic. I think it's a perfect topic. I think it is. Oh, there you are, Tim.
Hey, he's back.
And I
You're
have
good.
a face that's not
Well,
frozen.
I mean,
I didn't say it was a good face.
Someone could have stolen your
Oh.
face. I don't know.
Is this Tim?
People tell me I've got a real face for radio.
It is tonight.
I don't know. It might not be Tim. He's got like a different beard. It might be something trying to assimilate Tim and they didn't know how to actually do the beard part.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway,
I think we should stick with that.
Maria, sincerely, thank you for doing this one. It has been a blast for me personally, at least. I can only speak for me, but I loved it. I think that we could have many, many episodes on many, many of the concepts that were touched. I especially like how we discussed eggs because I feel like that's one of the cooler things that people don't know about. And if you have an egg story, please put it down in the comments. And I would also really love to hear if anybody has stories about witches, or maybe you've got like an aunt that's a witch or anything like that. Please put it down in the comments. We would love to have some cool comments to read. Does anybody else want to do any call outs for what they'd like to see in those comments? All right. Sounds great. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for telling a friend. Thank you for playing with your mom's black makeup, pretending to be a witch. And we'll see you all next week where Tim is going to be talking about the poltergeist of Enfield?
The infield poltergeist. correct.
Enfield I said
Yeah.
poltergeist of Enfield. I think you should give me that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got it. You win.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Take care of yourselves. Bye.
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 She lit the fire, you fed the flame. Now every night you scream her name. You cheated on a bruja boy, now how's your cabaret? La maldición está en tu piel, and it won't wash away. Te lo advertí, no juegues con una bruja. I warned you, don't play with a witch. Now every full moon she's dancing near, but only he can see her leer. Hey, puppy, now you're haunted. She gave you all, but you flaunted. Now every kiss you still feels wrong. She's in your shadow all night long. You cheated on a bruja boy, and now you've got to pay. La maldición está en tu piel, forever you'll obey.